Well, when it comes to Epcot's overhaul, I think it's pretty safe to say most people feel a sense of underwhelmment when it comes to what was initially presented and the concept art that they showed and the futuristic feel and the different types of buildings. One of them almost looked like a spaceship was landing in the middle of Epcot. And then the final product, which is we're basically left with a garden, which I do think is a downgrade. Plus, you look at Communicore Hall, which in its final iteration is basically a community college dining hall. And even in here at the World Celebration Gardens, on some of this stuff was what the concept art looked like, but the lighting elements around it have not been working for many months, even soon after it opened. And we have an article here from Blog Mickey that talks about Celebration Gardens here. The ground lighting is completely broken and the future of it is unclear. So we're going to read through this and give some thoughts on it. So hi, I'm Jared with Capture the Magic, and we'll just get right into this. So it says, while visiting Epcot recently, we noticed that Walt Disney World was in process of some significant changes to the broken in-ground lighting in the World Celebration Gardens. World Celebration Gardens is the central part of Epcot that was under construction for years and years as Disney aimed to transform the space. Over that time, budget cuts saw the removal of the World Celebration Festival Center and the introduction of Communicore Hall. And if you're wondering what the initial World Celebration Festival Center was supposed to look like, it was going to look like this, which again almost looks like a spaceship with a garden or trees up top where you can watch fireworks. And, you know, the original concept art for a lot of this was pretty fantastic in the way it looked. And then, of course, you have Communicore Hall and this final product, which, again, is essentially looks like a community college dining hall. So that's one of the issues going on with Epcot in terms of overall how people kind of feel about that. One of the advertised highlights of the new gardens area was a network of lighting that would make the area come alive after sunset, but now it is broken. Before we take a look at the current situation, here's a look at what that area looked like right after it opened in December of 2023. The lighting would not only ebb and flow throughout the night, but it was also synchronized to dance along with Spaceship Earth and the perimeter lighting columns. It was a pretty cool effect that made Epcot much more enjoyable after dark than during the day, and we were ready to call for Disney to make Epcot the nighttime park at Disney World, extending hours until closer to midnight. And I will say, we were there when it opened. It was a cool effect at night. I mean, again, I don't think it's anything that's like mind-blowing, but it was really cool as it was synchronized and the floor elements and things like that. It was a cool effect at night, and I will say it had a good vibe with it. And then they said, then over the next few weeks and months, we started to see some of the lighting sections broken or not synchronized with the rest of the area. By the summer, the area was really struggling, and it was clear that Disney had a significant problem on its hands. And here's a video of it here. Probably get copyright for that music there, so I won't play that. But yeah, I mean, this is what it looks like now, which some of the elements kind of come on, but it's nowhere near the first picture that we saw in terms of the floor. Now, the column lighting is still there for the most part, but the floor lighting is the one that has had its issues. It says Disney is starting to address the issue, but address the issue may very well mean removing the in-ground lighting effects completely. Right now, the in-ground lighting effect in the Central Gardens is completely broken. In fact, there is no chance that it is going to work at all in the immediate future. As you can see in our photos below, Disney has almost completely replaced the translucent plastic covering of the lights with a completely opaque plastic material. I would say some 80 to 90% of the translucent covers have been replaced at this point, and none of the in-ground lighting works. It says we'll get a better look at the lighting changes once the sun sets, but in the meantime, let's take a closer look at the changes. Yeah, and you can see here, I mean, that right there is like the translucent part, and then you can see it just looks like a white piece of plastic have been laid over most aspects of it. Yeah, that's a good look at it there. And that is not, I mean, that's not translucent. You're not going to be able to see any color through that, I would assume. It says, unclear if the currently installed opaque material is considered a long-term solution or not. The translucent material was often broken, and it was considered a tripping hazard as pieces lifted to create bumps and even detached from the ground completely. It's possible that the new opaque material is a temporary solution to remedy the tripping hazard created by the old material. We reached out to Disney World for comment about the changes, but they have not responded as of press time. Beyond the material, the integrity of the underlying lighting infrastructure is also in question, given the nearby broken state of the effects this summer. And there's a close-up there. You can see of it there. As the sun started to set, we saw the lighting columns start to turn on, but more than half were experiencing issues. The most common issue was lighting that appeared to be stuck on bright white, even during the Spaceship Earth light shows. Other lighting simply wasn't turning on. Once the sun was down, we could see none of the in-ground lighting around the central planter was working. Instead, any color that appeared on the floor in our photos below was simply reflected from other area lighting that was working. I wonder if that's what they're going for, to make it reflective, where it's just going to play off the colors off those columns there. So here's a look at the lighting columns with portions of the column stuck on bright white. Interesting. Other lighting in the area was mostly functional, but we did notice a couple of non-functioning light columns closer to Spaceship Earth. On those, yeah. I have noticed those before being out as well, walking around that area. I mean, that's something that Epcot used to have, those really cool lighting elements in the original Epcot on the ground there that, I mean, those things worked for 20, 30 years. I mean, when it comes to this, it's been less than a year since this area was completed, supposedly. And you know, when you look at this, it was months or maybe even weeks after this area opened where it started having issues. And apparently what caused the problem was there wasn't a message relayed to the maintenance side of things. So apparently when they were power washing the area, that is what damaged some of these. Now, that's a failure on Disney in terms of communicating. You know, I would assume they would have, you know, perhaps communicated this to the maintenance staff. So it's either a breakdown of Disney didn't tell the maintenance staff, or they did tell the maintenance staff and the maintenance staff just drop the ball and damage these. Now, it's also another thing that, again, you have these elements that are completed, and we look at Tiana's Bayou Adventure. We look at all these things that are new and completed, and they have issues almost right off the bat. And this was supposed to be Epcot being set up for the next 20 to 30 years. And you look at Communicore Hall, and I think a lot of people would just say, it's just a square building. It is a space for air conditioning in the summer. You can put festival things in there, but there's nothing that wows it. There's no Disney element to it of something you would have saw, say, in the 90s when they would have, I think they would have gone above and beyond and done something. And really, in my opinion, too, it stripped away a lot of the character of Epcot and just made it almost this bland, almost IKEA-like feeling in terms of how the design was. It didn't feel futuristic, but it didn't feel old. It just feels real modern, and I don't think that's necessarily the vibe that Epcot is or really was. And so now I feel like Epcot kind of has a little bit of an identity issue going on. Plus, you have these problems where something's brand new and it's already broken. And the fact that if they don't fix this, I mean, this is something like things get broken, things happen. But the fact that if they are replacing these elements and they're just going to cover this up and not try and fix it, I think this is yet again, you just look at Disney as everything's short-sighted. It's like, why would you, you're going to have to spend some money here to fix these problems, but like fix it, do it right the first time, and then have it last there for longer than a few months. So the fact that it's been longer broken than it was working, again, I think you look at Imagineering, I think you look at, I'm not going to put this on maintenance necessarily because I don't know where the information lapse was there, but I don't think, I think a lot of things that get handed off to maintenance in terms of maintaining things are not up to the par or the caliber of things that they used to be with Disney. I mean, you look at Epcot, a lot of those areas were aging, but they held up really, really well over decades. And now you have these new things open, and almost right off the bat, they're just not maintained or they break down quickly. And not to mention in this whole area, there's outdoor seating that I looked at, and it's metal seating that's outdoors. And yes, when the weather's cool, it's not bad. It's actually a nice little area. But in the summertime, you're just going to bake out there as there's no shade. There's so many elements of Epcot that don't have any shade. And it's like these things were designed in California, ported over to Florida, and nobody stopped to think of like, hey, the climate here is different than California, or hey, these lighting elements on the ground here, is this material going to withstand people and strollers and wheelchairs and scooters walking and rolling over this constantly all day long? Do we like all these things that I think would have been thought about years ago seem to be just an afterthought or not brought up at all. And I think it just, again, it's one of these small things with Disney, is these small things that they used to do really, really well made a really big difference. And now you're seeing these small things that they're not doing so well also making a big difference, but on the negative side of things. So hopefully this, replacement plastic lining here is temporary as they look to actually fix this problem. But if it's not, and it's just something they're going to put, they're going to put plastic over this and they're just going to let it be, I just think that's a bad look for Disney and something that doesn't, instill confidence in people that look at, Disney just announced all these new things that they're going to be building in the next few years. I say few years. In my opinion, you're not going to see any of this for 5 years or somewhere around that range would be my guess, looking at Disney construction timelines, including Epcot. But even if these things open, do they run properly? You're already seeing issues at Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Disneyland have problems on its opening day. So a lot of the things that Disney does complete, first off, they do it. They basically overpromise, underdeliver, which is why I think they're kind of being more hush-hush about some of these things that they're currently building, because I definitely think they don't want to continue that mindset. They don't want to necessarily reveal too much, knowing that things will likely change or have to change depending on different permits and stuff like that. But when people don't have confidence in the things that you're opening, when the things do open and they aren't working just weeks or a few months after they open, that's also not a great look. On top of the fact that they're charging more and more money every single year to come to the parks, you would assume if they're doing that, okay, we're going to see upgrades in the parks and they're going to be immaculate and it's really going to be this amazing experience. But instead, they're charging more money, and a lot of these things are charging for, Lightning Lane, what was Genie Plus, for things that used to be free, but now they're charging more money, and the things that they are building are not up to the standard in which they themselves said they were going to do and what they used to do. And I think this is a problem with the culture of Disney currently. I think it's just based on just making as much money as they can in the short term as people come through those gates and not thinking about the long term. How do people feel about their trips? Do we give them a good experience, and do they want to come back? And I think whenever you have these things, I'm not saying that people aren't going to come back to Disney because the lighting effects in the floor aren't working. But when you have lighting effects in the floor not working, and you have Communicore Hall just being a community hall dining area, basically, you have Tiana's Bayou Adventure being unreliable, you have a lot of rides being down, plus it's really expensive. All these things do add up to how people feel. And when it comes to booking your next vacation, I think there's a lot of people that think, I don't know, let's maybe go somewhere else. Let's try somewhere else because, how'd you feel about it? And a lot of people, when it comes to vacations, it's not really necessarily, it's the money on some level, but a lot of it's how you felt about your trip. And I think these things lend into that. And there's also a lot of people who will talk about the cast member customer service isn't what it used to be. So there's a lot of elements about the parks that while they're charging more money for it, you're getting less for your money. And I think this is an indication of that. And I just really hope and I really wish that Disney would fix these problems. I'm not going to blame them for something happening that was beyond their control if that is what happened, and things do happen. But the fact that this has been almost a year since this opened and it is still having these problems and we have no idea where it stands, I don't think it's a great look, and I don't think it instills confidence in your customers or your fan base that you are going to continue to do the little things that used to make Disney so special, that now it's basically just an area where you're like, oh yeah, that used to work. I remember opening day it worked, but now it doesn't, and things slowly, I say slowly, but within a year of it opening are already having issues. And this was supposed to be an area that was going to set up Epcot and Disney really for the next 10, 20 years. And this area hasn't even lasted how it initially opened for the first year. But either way, that's going to be it though for this video. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel, as we do lots of coverage here of Universal Studios, Epic Universe, Disney World, and pop culture. And let us know in the comments, what do you think about the lighting issues in World Celebration Gardens? And do you think the lights here are going to get fixed? And until next time, we will see you in the parks.